Okay, hello everyone. This morning I want to go through the recipe and the process of making English toffee, or what my kids call Christmas crack, affectionately. This is another candy making video, which I'll go through the different supplies that we're going to need for this recipe. As usual, we need the big, very clean, heavy gauge pan, a spatula that's rated at least 450 degrees Fahrenheit, because this stuff we're going to go to 305, so it's a very hot candy. We're going to need butter. Each recipe, single recipe, takes 1 pound of butter. Okay, we're going to need almonds. You can either use whole raw almonds that you toast in the oven, or you can buy slivered almonds, which I prefer, because if you've ever tried to chop these, it's not fun at all. So I buy them in bulk online. If I can't find them at Costco, I get like 14 or 15 pounds of them at a time, and then whatever I don't use for that season, I freeze, because nuts will become rancid. So if you package them really well, you can freeze them from season to season. This year, I just happened to be at Costco a couple weeks ago, and they had them in stock. Last year, I could not find them. So I bought a few bags of these, and I will package these up, double bag them, and freeze them for next year. And you're gonna need a very good digital candy thermometer. This recipe calls for dark chocolate, although you can make it with milk chocolate. I have some people that prefer the milk, so I make it with that. I also have one sister that doesn't like almonds, so she likes me to make hers with walnuts. And then you're gonna need a little bit of water. Single recipe calls for 1/3 of a cup of water, and it calls for 1/4 cup light corn syrup. So the single recipe is 3/4 cups of almonds, 1 pound of dark chocolate, 2 cups or 1 pound of butter, 2 2/3 cups of granulated sugar, 1/3 cup of water, and 1/4 cup of corn syrup. Okay, so the other things that you're going to need, other than your nice pan, you're going to have to toast your almonds for about 6 to 8 minutes at 350, so they're just kind of lightly golden brown. That makes them have a really good, delicious, nutty flavor to them. When we get ready to pour the toffee, we're going to need a sheet pan covered with a silplat sheet so that it doesn't stick. So I'm going to pause you now and get started, and we'll go through this recipe together. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I put my 2 pounds of butter in, and my Karo syrup and my water, and I'm just about got all of this melted on a very low heat so I don't scorch anything. And now I'm going to add in the sugar, and after I do that, I'll come back. If you can hear that crunching in the background, that's the dogs, 3 of them eating their lunch. They make a lot of noise. Okay, after you add that sugar in there, for a double batch, it's 5 1/3 cups. You want to continually stir it until there's no more granulated aspect of the sugar. And you want to do this because if you let that sugar just stay on the bottom of the pan, it's going to scorch. Okay, so just stand here for a little bit until all that gets incorporated and you get like a little simmer going, and then you know that you don't have to be so attentive to it. So I'll come back when that happens. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see this really well, but I've just been standing here after I added the 5 1/3 cups of sugar, and the way that I do it is I just use my spatula to go around the curved part of the pan, the bottom, and then I kind of use a sweeping motion along the bottom, so I make sure that sugar doesn't settle anywhere in the bottom of the pan. Okay, and as you can see now, we are getting some bubbling action, so pretty much know that all my sugar is dissolved, and I don't have to pay as careful attention to it. I just come and give it a stir every now and then. It is gonna, like the other candies, the caramels that I make, it is gonna rise up in the pan a little bit, and then it's gonna drop down as the temperature increases and it becomes more dense. And every once in a while, I'll just come and give it a little stir and keep an eye on it. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and clip my candy thermometer on here. I have it preset to 300 degrees. I am gonna go a tad over. I'm gonna go to 305. With English toffee, if you don't at least get to 300, when you bite into that toffee, it's going to be just a tad bit sticky, and it's not really good for like people who have crowns and dental work. It's much less damaging, I guess, on the teeth if it's a real crisp and not so sticky. So when I put my candy thermometer in, I go quite into the pan, but then I lift up and towards the center. So I'm not sitting right on the bottom of the pan. I'm getting an accurate temperature on what's in the pan. I wanted to show you, this is my toasted almonds that I did. And I did line one of my pans here. I'll show you. Just a second. Forgive the crazy movement of the camera here. Forgive me. I've got one pan that's got whole almonds that I had from a different recipe that I just mashed up with a mallet. And then I've got one pan that has the sliced toasted almonds on it. Previously, forgive me again for moving you around a little bit. Previously, I used to not put almonds on the bottom of my pan. But I kind of like it. It adds a little bit more crunch to the toffee instead of just the chocolate and the almonds on top. So I've been doing that, adding it. And I just kind of broadcast them over the bottom of the pan. That way when the toffee's done and ready to pour over the pan, you just pour on top of that in that situation. And we'll come back here when we're getting about 305. Okay, I wanted to jump on here and kind of show you at different stages where we're at. We're about 248 degrees on the candy thermometer, and as you can see, it's getting very kind of dense and stuff, and the color is going to start changing. We're going to go from a pale yellow of the butter to an amber, and then as we approach the 300 degrees, it becomes a darker amber color. So I'll come back on at around 280 to 290. That's when I really watch it, and I'm pretty much standing here stirring it because it can scorch easily, like from 280 to 305 if you don't keep an eye on it. So we'll be back. Okay, I wanted to jump back on here and show you where I'm at. I'm about 280 degrees. As in, you can see the consistency is changed on the mixture here. Also, the color is turning more amber. And right around 280 is where I kind of stand here and keep an eye on it. I do that method of taking my spatula into the crease of the pan and then kind of a zigzag across the bottom to make sure that nothing is sticking on the bottom of the pan. And also checking the position of my thermometer occasionally to make sure that it's not touching the bottom of the pan. When I come back on here and we're about 3 to 305, it's going to be a very fast moving situation. I don't know if I'll have time to reposition my camera to show you how I pour it on the silk mat, but I'm going to do my best, okay? But at this stage here, it's showing 286 now, moving relatively quick. I'm on a medium heat, nothing more than that, and just really keeping an eye on it. I'll come back when I'm about 300, okay? Okay, I'm at 301. My thermometer starts giving me an alarm around 297. And I'm gonna stand here and continually move the mixture until I reach 305. I'm not gonna turn the camera off because I have to really pay attention here to what I'm doing. At this stage, It's dangerous. You can scorch it really, really fast. But it shouldn't take me very long to get to 305. It's now showing 303, so I am just about there. I know I mentioned this in some of my other videos, but this is not something you want to do with small children in the kitchen, okay? This is very dangerous, this hot candy. So you want to really be paying attention and make sure that nobody else touches or pulls on you or draws your attention away while you're doing this. I'm at 304. So now I'm going to pull this off, and I'm able to do that without any type of hand protection because this pan is so heavy gauged that it allows me to do that. As you can see with my right hand, I'm continuing to stir. I'm going to turn my camera so you can see my sheet pans here, hopefully. And then I can show you how this gets poured on. I'm just going to take this and pour it right down the center of my sheet pan. In 3 little sections. I try to stay in the marks there, and I'm going to pull it back up and give it a stir because it is already starting to get some dark marks on the bottom there, which is totally normal. It's such a high temperature candy that's going to happen. Okay, there we go on that one. I'm going to come back over here to the other one, give it a little bit more. There we go. I know you can't see that, I'm sorry, but it's just what happens when one person only is doing this. It's looking good. I'm going to go back over to the other sheet here, get the very last of it out. There we go. I got it. Don't want to smack any of it on me because it's hotter than bejesus. Then I just take my spatula and just very calmly kind of spread it. Think you can see that pretty good, yeah? Okay, then I'm just going to let this sit for a minute and I will come back and show you how I score it. Okay, you're not going to see me here, you're just going to see what I'm working on. I use a baker's scraper to score the taffy. You could certainly use a knife, a butter knife. You wouldn't want to use anything too sharp because you don't want to cut through your silplat. But I basically, for me, I used to do these in really small pieces, like individual pieces, but it's a real chore then to coat them with chocolate and put the nuts on all of them. It's just too much of a headache. So I do pretty large pieces because that's how I package them. But I've got little cuts in my silplat. I don't know if you can see that, but I just do one down the middle and then I follow that cut line across, come down the center, and I can't see my cut line, so I'm just going to imagine that it's there because the other sheet. And once I've got those cut, then I cut that in half. And I only let this cool for about maybe 4 minutes or so, because once it's set, you won't be able to score it. And this makes it a heck of a lot easier to take apart. And that's how I do it, because you'll see later on, I'll show you how I package them, why that's just the perfect size for me, pretty much. And then while it's cooling, I just go ahead and go over those lines so I make sure I have a really good score so that when I go to pop it out of the pan, my pieces are good. And that's what I do. And then I let this cool completely, and then we'll come back. I wanted to show you how fast that can scorch. I hope you can see that in the bottom of the pan there. There's just a real small mark where it started to scorch. And that's how fast it can happen when you have candy up at that high temperature. So you really have to watch it for like the last 20 degrees. Keep the material moving in the pan. I'll be back. Okay, I've let this sheet cool completely to where it's cool to the touch underneath. If you try to pop it out from the sheet too soon, it doesn't pop really easily. So I usually start with a corner, and then I just set it aside on a sheet of parchment paper as I go along here. And just kind of snap, hopefully. Yeah, and then snap. Sometimes you'll get some breakage, and that's okay. Those can either be testers for the cook, or you just go ahead and put chocolate on them, and it's just like a piece of candy. It's no big deal, okay? So once you get them all separated and put on your tray over here, then you're going to melt some chocolate. I'm using Trader Joe pound bar. Of dark chocolate, and I do that in the microwave in bursts of about 30 seconds till it's almost completely melted, and then I just stir it until it becomes melted, and then I wait and let it cool until it measures on my instant read thermometer about 90 degrees before I put it on the candy and apply the nuts, and I'll show you when I get to that stage. Okay, I wanted to pop on here and kind of show you. I've still got some pretty big chunks of chocolate in here, but as I let this sit and stir it, that's all gonna incorporate. And rather than overheat the chocolate, I'm just gonna be patient and let that melt on its own. Now, if I was doing like 10 trays of this, I would be using my Wilton's chocolate pot, which has a pretty good capacity to hold the chocolate, and it holds it pretty well at temperature. But because I'm only doing 2 trays right now, I have to get a box off early to my nephew's son, who's currently in the Army and deployed in Poland. So I want to make sure that he gets his box of candy this year early. So that is why I'm doing a small batch and getting that in the mail. But I'll come back here in a little bit once this now cools to about 90 degrees and show you how I apply the chocolate and the nuts. Okay, I'm back again. All right, I've warmed up my chocolate and waited for it to cool, and all the little chunks are now in there, and I'm about 91 degrees, which I'm okay with. And I usually go about 90, 91, it's good enough. Now, what I do here is I'll show you what the bottom of the toffee looks like when you put the nuts on the pan, so that you've got pretty much a nice bite of nuts in every piece of your toffee, rather than just a few randomly sprinkled on top of the chocolate. So this has a super high butter content in it. So before I put the chocolate on, I just take a paper towel and kind of give it a wipe to make sure that there's not a big oil slick on top of there. I'm not doing a lot, so I'm just using my little spatula. Otherwise, I usually use my cake froster that's tiny that does it. And I want a pretty good amount of chocolate on it like that. And then I sprinkle it with the toasted walnuts. And that is it. The reason why I wait till the chocolate's about 90 degrees is if you put it on there when the chocolate is too hot, what happens is the chocolate kind of slides off the candy, and then when you add the nuts, the same thing happens. The nuts slide off of the chocolate, which is no good. You know, you want them to stay on there. And then you just keep doing this till you got the entire 2 trays done. Sometimes I'll take my hand like this and crunch the almonds so that they're a little bit smaller pieces. Just depends. You can do it either way. And if we're using walnuts, it's the same. It's basically the same principle. You just toast them and then put them on. And as you can see, this one didn't get as many nuts on it but that's fine. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, that's it. So that's pretty much how you make Christmas candy, Christmas toffee, or my kids call it, they call it Christmas crack, because it's somewhat addictive. Once you start eating it, you can't stop. I will jump on here and do a separate video when I've got all of my holiday candy completed and I'm ready to box for mailing, so you can see how I package everything out and get it mailed the most economical way I've figured out over the years to send out the candy. And I hope you guys all have a great day. And if you like my video, give it a like and a share, thumbs up. And if you have any questions, or if I didn't cover something well enough for you, just send me a question and I'd be happy to answer it for you. Have a great day.